Wake me up to another good morning, time to go. Got that smile upon my face, 'cause there's excitement in the chase, this I know. Yeah, I'm going for the ride and find myself, I am alive.
I think we're in the groove now. Okay, I want to welcome everyone this morning, members and guests. Our speaker should be here about 10:30. She said her plane lands at 9:30. So I think it'll be close. I don't know where she has to go, but we'll keep our eyes out for her.
Yeah, she actually started this week, Howard, as a flight attendant and did her first trip. So she's coming back from flying.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay, where's she landing?
I think in Seattle.
Okay.
I get out of the airport now.
That's not gonna be easy. It's cold, snowy up there.
Okay, well, let's get started. I want to introduce our wonderful founder, Lynn Spreen. And one of the things that I'm always amazed at is that when somebody gets an idea and it comes into fruition, it's not just, it just doesn't happen. It comes from hard work. And Lynn had an idea of making this group be a writers group. I don't know why she got the idea or where she got the idea, but she decided that what we needed was a writers group, Diamond Valley Writers Guild, and she started it. And now we're in our, I think, 7th year, and it's just been wonderful. So Lynn is right now the secretary and also the webmaster, and she's done everything. My dad used to say, you know, when he had a lot to do, he said, if you stick a broom up my behind, I'll sweep the floor too. Let me just introduce Lynn and have her say a few words.
Well, thanks, Howard. What a nice thing to say. It was purely selfish. The reason that I got the idea was I was tired of driving to Palm Springs because I was a member of the Palm Springs Writers Guild. And also I had this idea that if we could, you know, if we were doing something like having a book launch back in the days before masks and COVID and everything, it would be nice to have, you know, local activities where we could have a book launch at somebody's house or at one of the, you know, businesses in Hemet. And all of us could get to know each other and see each other even outside the guild. I thought it would be a neat way to find people who were like me, you know, people who wrote and loved the written word and loved the creativity of it, and geeked out on the technicalities of it, you know, like marketing and all that kind of stuff, and didn't want to drive to Palm Springs, especially if there was alcohol involved. So that was selfish on my part, but I will tell you, I will never forget, in, I think it was August of 2018. It was later, maybe because it was fall, it was cool. But I had a meeting at my house and there were about a little over a dozen people sitting around my dining room table. And we were talking about it. Well, what would it look like? How would we run this? Who would come? Where would we have it? Would we charge dues? And I said, you know, I feel really bad about this, but I think we need money because, you know, we're going to have a website and stuff like that. And all of a sudden, I remember Ray Straight, like, well, maybe not Ray Straight, but somebody, some guy, leaning back and pulling out his wallet and throwing $20 in the middle of the table. And then everybody followed suit. Everybody, probably about Ray Straight. But anyway, I'm just teasing him in absentia. People were so excited about this idea and they were so enthusiastic to help and to do whatever they could do. And I'll never forget that. Somebody designed this and somebody designed that. Everybody just volunteered and we were all so excited about it. And then getting together in person has always been so much fun. I'm looking forward to going back to those days. And I hope that at some point we can, and we will have a place to meet. I'm not sure if we'll be able to get back at the library. Michelle has been working on that a little bit. But we are hoping we can find a location where we can finally get together again, and then after the meeting, break bread. That was rich. I love all you guys, and I wish that we could do that again.
Yeah.
Valerie, you have a question?
I don't have a question. The CDC a few hours ago lifted the mask mandate, so we don't have to wear masks anymore.
Isn't that amazing?
That's a good thing.
Yeah, that's just amazing.
Yeah.
So is Michelle around? Michelle, are you here?
She's
Can you-
disappeared.
She has disappeared. She is the one who's working on trying to find another location. Like I said, I don't think Howard, am I going on too long?
No, please.
Okay. I don't think the library, for some reason, she doesn't seem that open to us coming back. I'm not sure why. Maybe it's just because I say she, I mean Kathy Kane's the director. Maybe still hasn't gotten clearance yet, and so she's hesitant to welcome us back. But at this point, we're sort of looking at other locations. One that would be kind of fun would be the Metropolitan Water District installation up at the top of the hill by Diamond Valley Lake. It'd be kind of cool. But we are called Diamond Valley Writers Guild, which Diamond Valley doesn't exist. It's just kind of a, I didn't think that San Jacinto Valley would read that well. I didn't think people would understand it, be able to spell it as well. So Diamond Valley seemed easier. Sorry, it's the truth. And so we could meet anywhere. Diamond Valley is a figment of our geographic imagination. We could meet in French Valley at the new library there if we wanted to. So if you guys have any ideas about facilities that might possibly be open to bringing in a nice crowd and celebrating the literary arts, that would be, your suggestions would be very welcome.
Well, I know Jim and Vicky Hitt are always hospitable.
Oh,
Yeah.
We'll just all
absolutely.
go to their house.
Yeah.
not 40 people, Howard.
What, Daniel? Daniel's
I'm
waving.
okay with that.
Yeah.
What, Daniel?
No.
I'm just thinking that Melody used to work for the library. I think she worked for the one in Menifees, and she might be a good contact as far as having at least suggestions, which meeting rooms might be big enough.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a long way away.
Mhm.
Just a question. I wonder, Len, we all live in the Four Seasons. Wonder if their ballroom is available.
I think they charge by the meeting. I think that was the problem before.
Could
Yeah.
be, yeah.
What would happen if we would start like a sub guild in Four Seasons? It could be a club. We'd have to have 7 members who are Four Seasons residents, but I think you can invite outsiders.
Oh, that's worth looking into.
I'll mention it to our facilities scout, Michelle.
Well, whatever we get until the library opens could be just temporary. In other words, if we had to pay some place for a short period of time, that might be okay. If we're
I'm
looking
back.
at it as a short interim period, so that's a possibility.
Okay,
I'm back. What was that about facilities?
that you're the scout. And we were talking about how it doesn't look like possibly the Hemet Library is going to, do you have any updates on that?
Yeah, actually, yes, for the foreseeable future, they have no plans to allow groups to meet.
Yeah,
Don't even give me a, will it be summer, will it be fall? They said they have no plans. However, and I think that I mentioned this to a couple of people, Emilio's Restaurant has said we can meet there. They won't charge us, but there won't be any waitress service or nothing until noon. So the owner is there early prepping. They don't open until noon, but they said that they'd let us meet there in the room. And then of course, we usually go there for lunch anyway. So at noon, the waitresses arrive and they could take your orders and we could continue our party. So That's pretty good news. We haven't checked out the internet that's there to see if it would sustain Zoom and all of that. We think it will, but I was going to bring that up at the next board of directors meeting, which is next Tuesday.
No, not next Tuesday, the one after that.
Yeah,
It's
the
sec-
8th.
Second Tuesday of,
Oh, I'm ahead of myself.
Thank
Okay, it's
God.
the Tuesday after, it's the Tuesday I get back from Texas. That's why I'm out of state, so nothing's happening till the 3rd of March in my brain. So
Okay.
I apologize.
all right. What about the Metropolitan Water District? Have you had any luck with them?
Zero luck.
Zero, okay.
Yeah, and Jessica, who went to school there, went to middle school there, says that she does not believe the internet building will sustain us.
Okay.
She said it's
Well-
really bad. It's really
Ooh.
spotty in that building.
Oh, well, thanks for your efforts on that.
Yeah. You're welcome.
What's the capacity at Melio's for that room? Do you
I
know?
think 80, right? I think
Oh.
about 80.
Okay, that should take
Wow.
care of us. We never have had more than probably 50. In
Which
person.
room is it?
The back room where we normally have lunch.
What?
On the east side then,
Sounds like a,
or the west side?
I'll answer. Who's this?
you're lagging.
Uh-uh.
We can't hear you.
We've
So
had
on the-
lunch, we've
Well,
had lunch
yeah,
on both
it's-
sides, both the east side and the west side. So I'm asking which side it would be.
Well, I think Diamond Valley Writers Guild has only had lunch in the back room. I don't remember being in the front room ever, but we're in the back room, and that's the one that's by the back patio, which is to the left when you come in the door.
Okay.
That's
So
where
how-
they have events and group meetings. So we've always been back there.
Okay, and how early do they serve cocktails?
When they open at noon, if you need a cocktail, you can get one, Howard.
Okay.
what they make flasks for, I guess.
Yeah, they even have margaritas to go. So there you go.
Now, I remember eating in two different places there. A bigger area, which I think you're talking about, Michelle, and then there's a back area that's closer to the restrooms, which is also connects to a dining room. So I think the place that can be closed off is what they must be talking about.
What is that
It's-
sound?
Yeah,
It's his
there's-
bird. That's his
There's
bird.
Oh, yeah.
the
Thank you.
front of the restaurant
Yeah.
is where they seat patrons, on a regular basis. The back of the restaurant is normally open for groups. So it's the room when you walk in, you turn left instead of right.
Oh, good. That's a good one. Yeah.
It's the one we usually have our lunches in.
Yep, that's good.
So it's a matter of juggling what speakers we have that can't be here, because we really can't go live with some of the speakers we have coming up because they're not local. And so we're trying, those will be conversations at the next board meeting, and anyone who's interested in attending the board meeting, of course, you're always welcome, whether you're a board member or not, but those will be discussed, and we might make a decision as to when we're going back live, which would be fabulous.
How fun.
Okay, well, let's move along. I want to go to the part where we have successes, where people who are writing, actively writing, can talk about what they're doing and what successes they might have had. Does anybody want to start off?
Sharon,
Yeah, Karen.
I don't think I reported. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know if I reported this last month, but I was asked to write an Easter play. So Suzanne, who also belongs to the Diamond Valley Writers Guild, and I wrote an Easter play. However, we can't find any actors or actresses. And so if you know any, we need 2 teenage girls for the leading parts. Wannabe actresses or actresses that could pass for 17, 18, 19, somewhere around that years old. That's what we're looking for. And our first rehearsal is today, and we don't have any actors. So
the high schools,
this may be a play for next year. We'll see.
can you check the high schools?
It's a
Drama departments?
because of politically correct. It's a Christian play and they won't announce it for us.
Oh,
Hmm.
Stupid.
Well, how about somebody who self-identifies as a teenage girl?
Daniel, are you stepping up?
Okay, Karen,
Yes.
if you get me the information, email it to me. Jessica's
Sure.
not on the meeting because she's getting on an airplane in about an hour to join us here in Austin. She was a
Okay.
day behind us, but she has a direct link with the theater director. And even though you can't get official information, he may be able to say, hey, if you're interested in audition possibilities, here you go, to his class. Okay?
Okay. All right. Thank you. I will send it to you.
Good idea. And call up to the college too. They have a good dramatic arts program.
It's a Christian play.
So what? Maybe they'll do it. You can ask.
Well, you would think that they would be able to put it out to the students and let
Mhm.
them make the choice whether or not they're interested in being in a Christian play, but they so far have not been forthcoming in,
No, that would be freedom of speech. We can't have that.
yeah, forget that.
There may be at a college a Christian group that you could somehow announce it to. Thank you.
Hmm.
oh, like Loyola or one of those Christian colleges.
That would be a good idea, except making inroads to find out the right places. I don't want to put a roadblock. I would try that. And thank you for those suggestions. I appreciate it.
Okay. Dan has his hand up. But you're muted.
Yeah, I'm a little bit tied up in it right now, but I'm on the verge of publishing my first book, Pipeline. It's a thriller that takes place, starts off at least in Los Angeles. I'm using draft to digital per some recommendations, especially from Karen and help from Karen. And I'm just about there. I have to make some changes to the manuscript before it'll upload properly.
Okay.
So Jim's got something.
Yeah, actually, I'm going to screen share here for a second, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm going to do is, everybody see that?
Yeah. Ooh, that looks good.
That's the cover of my new book that 5 Stars published, excuse me, is publishing. It's been a great experience with them because they sent me about 3 pages of a form to fill out. Now this is the biggest publisher of Westerns in the United States right now.
Wow.
And they're one of the top 5, one of the big 5 publishers, a subsidy. And it will most assuredly be nominated for a Spur Award for Best Western Novel of 2022. It is not published yet. I do not know when it's coming out, but they've already put a copyright date of 2022 on it. I'm quite pleased. Now, I say they sent me these 3 pages. They asked me for a suggestion of a cover. And I'd already given them the title of the book. And I said, the way I envision it is these 3 writers, 2 men, 1 woman, riding toward a storm, and the writers in silhouettes, exactly what they gave me. Then they were concerned with, I said, looks great. They said, well, are the mountains high enough? Or this and this. And so they were really good about working with me with the cover. So that's it. I'm really happy with it. So I thought I'd share that with you, and I'll let you know when it comes out.
Jim, it's breathtaking. Just a spectacular cover.
Yeah, it is. And I don't think everybody knows that Jim and Vicky posed for that picture.
Yeah, there she is. And so at any rate, but thanks very much, people. I just want to share that. I'm looking forward to it coming out and seeing if it does get nominated. I know it'll get nominated, whether it wins or not, something else. But that's one of those awards I really would aspire to, is if I could win a Spur Award. My God, ever since I heard they gave them out, I've been thinking, God, if I could only win that.
Oh, wow.
That's it. So thanks very much, people.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, I have something to announce. I am working on my audiobook version of my latest novel. We did this once before, which won first place in fiction with a company called Bookshelf. And I guess the thing I want to say is I'm not bragging or anything, but I'm really pleased with how disciplined I've been lately. And I want to encourage everybody. I have this list of, maybe I can show you. Can you see my whiteboards? They're just scribbled all over the place. I don't know if you can see them, but I have scheduled my writing out through the end of June. And I have my audio book that's going to be published. I have a collection of short stories that's going to be published. And I'm finishing up the rough draft of a novel that I worked on that, for the last couple of months. And I expect I'll be publishing that this year. That's a production schedule that exceeds anything I've done in the past. And I find that the more I write, the faster I write. And so I have started a new program where I sit down every morning, because that's my best time to write. And I write in 3 45-minute intervals. And then I get up and walk around and do some exercise or whatever for 15 minutes, because I've heard that otherwise, you can hurt yourself. And I have found that in those 3 15-minute intervals, I'm capable of writing as much in a normal day as I would have slaved and struggled to work to produce in a normal nano marathon day, like close to 2,000 words. So it's like, the thing I want to say is to encourage you that sticking to a routine really does help. Don't get too far away from your work in progress. Go to it every day. Even if all you can do is just one session, and get up and move around and dictate and think about your work in progress, and then get back to the desk and work. For some days I feel like I'm not capable of doing good quality work, and I despair that I'll ever finish what I'm working on. But I have faith that all I have to do is just go back and honor my routine. And I sit down and I just work. And you know what? It happens. So instead of waiting for the muse or for some divine bolt of lightning to inspire me, I just slug away like I'm mopping floors, and it's working. And I'm really actually having some almost religious experiences in the course of it. Like, making myself laugh or cry like an insane person, and then I go out and tell my husband about it, and I'm really choked up about a certain scene, and he's humoring me. So I recommend just get yourself into the chair and go there regularly. Don't get too far away from your work, and it'll come together.
Lynn,
yeah,
is your routine 15 minutes or 45 minutes before you get up?
I do 45 minutes, and then I get up and I walk on the treadmill, or I do a little house cleaning or something like that. So 45 minutes working, 15 minutes walking, 45 minutes working. I do that 3 times, and I keep track. I have a notebook that it's like a work schedule. And every day I write down what I hope to accomplish and what I accomplished. And somehow that amount of routine really helps me. Just
That's
a thought.
discipline.
That's wonderful. Yeah. I have to support you on that. I didn't think I had a routine, but I do in some way. When I get up and I come check my email, and then I look at what I've been writing, and I start. And then my wife comes into the room after a while, and she says, "Don't you want to get dressed?" And I'm sitting there naked, and on my way to the shower or something. So, but you forget, and then you just keep going. So there is something about the moment where
yes.
you feel it and you do it, and then I can get dressed later. So it's not a big deal. So.
Now I know Jim Hitt has a really solid work ethic. Jim, you said you try and do 1,000 words a day, right?
You're muted, Jim.
Trying to unmute there. Okay, the answer is yes, but there are days when I can't write 1,000 because I have to do rewriting.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but what I've done recently is set myself 1,000 words a day. but that doesn't mean I write 1,000. Like I've written 1,000. The next day, my goal is 2,000. Well, if I write extra, then I kind of build in a day that I could take off and do just nothing but edit. So I've kind of gone to that way of approaching it. And mornings are my best time too, Lynn. Like this morning before the meeting, I managed to get about 250 words. So I try to write in the mornings when I'm feeling at my best.
Yes.
But you know what? It really depends on who you are and where you are at your best. Some people are certainly better in the evenings at night. I don't understand that, but there are people who are better at doing that, they say. I have to be fresh for me. And but every morning I'm at my computer, and after my wife and I spend about an hour and a half, 2 hours around lunchtime, and then I come back and write some more in the afternoon, and then that's it. So I quit somewhere in the 4 or 5 o'clock area. I'm finished.
What you said about how you try and write ahead if you can, life gets in the way. There's always stuff that comes up, like the other morning I get my coffee and my husband opens up his email and he turns his computer to me, and it says that basically he shows me this email saying that we have this gigantic fraud problem. And so I've been spending the last 2 or 3 days trying to create new bank accounts and close down credit cards and all kinds of stuff because my account got hacked. So that, that'll harsh your mellow, that'll get in the way of your writing ability.
Yeah. Well,
I
if
didn't do as much those days.
Well, if I can chime in here, one of the things I noticed, and I noticed this as a writer and also as I used to paint, unless I'm in a good mood, unless I'm happy, it's harder to do. And then I find that the work, it suffers for it. So your creativity, at least in my mind, has to do with my state of mind, my feeling of well-being and happiness. And so I try to really just compartmentalize what's happening in the world and put it aside, because there's too much negative stuff.
Boy, that's the truth.
That can block you. And
yeah.
I don't need that. And I think if you're an artist, you have to have that as part of your discipline, is to get happy. I say just get happy. I put that in my mind and I get happy. And then
or turn into an ostrich.
Or turn into an ostrich. That's fine too.
Yes,
but as long as I'm able to write something and I'm happy with it, that's the thing. And I think artists have that particular quirk, is how they're feeling. And I notice in some of the comments here today is where people are saying that. So, and then you can understand why Hemingway drank, he got into a zone, Okay, does anybody? Go
that
ahead.
would not help me.
I would like to say one other quick thing here. I believe if you're going to really be a professional writer, one of the things that you have to do, if you really want to be published and have people notice you and so forth, 2 things. One, you have to dedicate yourself to being, as Hemingway said, a crap detector. Make sure that you just cut, and you have to be vicious with your own work. The last novel I wrote was 106,000 words on the first run through. It's at 74,000 now.
Wow.
So I'm ruthless with my own material. But the other thing too, and this is crucial, you have to write every day. And if you don't write, you rewrite. You have something to do with what you're composing, what you want to write, whether it's fiction, nonfiction, doesn't matter. That I think writing every day and getting the habit of doing it is the crucial thing here.
I do too.
So much for my pontificating.
I agree with you.
Does anybody else want to share what they've been doing?
I'm going to embarrass somebody because I want Brenda to share. She just recently did a translation editing for a very important novel that was published in Europe. So go ahead, Brenda, tell them.
Unmute yourself, Brenda.
Here we go. How dare you?
We're glad she did.
So yes, I have a friend from Holland. His name's Ferry Zandvliet, and he has a best-selling novel about his experience at the Bataclan massacre. He survived, and his friends survived, and so he tells his story about that, and it's in Dutch, and it's a bestseller in Europe. But his editor wanted him to transform it into English, and so he came here. He's been here about a month now. He was going to be here just a couple weeks, but we've been working on it. And and look, can you come here for just a second? He's here.
I
Actually,
believe he's
now,
sold,
so-
hasn't he sold
so-
30,000 copies in
30?
Dutch?
Yay! Well, you may have.
Congratulations.
Hold on. There's your guest speaker right here. He's got an ear now.
Wow, congratulations on your big sales.
Yes, congratulations. Hold on. Okay, put it back in. Okay, now say it.
Okay, congratulations on your fantastic success.
Yes,
Thank you. Were you guys talking about me?
Yes,
Oh, well,
behind your back.
yes, actually, because of her. Michelle kind of mentioned that I had been helping you edit your book, so.
You can send them a copy, by the way,
Oh, yeah.
if you guys would like to read it.
Tell us more about it.
What is the title?
Souvenirs, and we are still thinking about a subtitle.
And tell us what it's about again.
Sorry?
I want to know what it's about.
It's about me surviving a terrorist attack a couple of years ago, and the life lessons I took from it.
Where was this located, the attack?
In Paris, at a rock show. There was an American band playing, and me and my friends went to go see it, and then that happened.
Yeah.
So it was a life-changing event.
Oh, wow.
So the it's actually two parts in one book. One part is about what happened that night, and the other part is about how it changed me the years after. All the life lessons that I hope the reader can also relate to.
It's brave of you to write it. Thank you.
And we're
Thank
glad
you.
you're here. We're glad you're here and survived it to write it.
It brought me to Hammett.
Yay! What more do you need in life?
Have you written before?
No, it was the first time. No, I'd never thought that I was capable of doing that.
Oh, okay. And tell us about your writing habits. How did you write the book?
I started to keep a journal. I did that a few days after the attack. We were on national TV, and the talk show host, he told me that I should keep a journal because he said, you have no idea what's coming. It's going to come your way the upcoming months and years. If you don't write stuff down, you're going to forget. So I was just keeping a journal. I still do that every day at the end of the day before I go to bed. I write down, did I have a good day or a bad day, specific things that happened. So I thought, wow, this is almost turning into a book after like 2 years. Let's see if I can put it on paper and create a story out of it. So I took my notes, my journals, and started to put that on paper. And eventually there was a book. I changed the structure like three or four times. It was a terrible process. It took me almost 4 years to write it.
Sound like a real writer.
Yeah.
There was no framework, no structure, no plan. And that was what worked for me. I mean, I'm writing my second book now, and there is some more structure now. But sometimes you can spend too much time thinking before you put your words into paper.
Yes, absolutely.
And
And he's also an accomplished speaker. He's not telling you that part.
Oh, I didn't know what you told and what you had.
No, I hadn't.
No, I give motivational talks about what happened that night, and that's my profession. It became my full-time job. I was a physical therapist, and now I'm a public speaker and a writer, apparently. Because my book was a bestseller in Holland, where I'm from, the Dutch version. I think we're on to the 6th pressing now in
wow
2 years. So big hopes for the English draft.
Well, wonderful.
And
I want
did
to
you,
get it to Oprah.
And I told him that in your acknowledgements,
Yeah, she's going to be in there. Yeah, I told her. Yeah.
So
Wow.
what apparently it is when Brenda was reading the draft, she said some of his Dutch to English translation, although it was literal, made no sense to Americans. And so that's what she's been proofreading for, right? Is that correct, Brenda?
yeah.
Yeah, and just you guys probably know that as well. You can have 100 eyes, and you press the book, and the first time you open it, there's a mistake.
Amen.
You are never done.
That is
so
the
I bought
truth.
a pair of extra eyes, and I thought we were done. And a friend of mine in Holland was like a tall, I always call her a word Nazi. Even she is. She said, "Oh, there's so much stuff that we need to edit still." So
Oh, I'm sure.
it's never done.
No, and your readers will find more and more things for you.
Yeah, I remember the first draft of my Dutch book. I was so proud of it, and so many time went into it. And I only give it to my best buddy, and he said, "Yeah, it's really good, but there are some mistakes." And oh, that bothered me so much. How can there be? And I think the fifth pressing, and still there are some commas.
Yeah, it's life. That is the life. You are living the
You learned
life.
about Oxford commas.
Yeah, my friend from Holland, she was like, there are a lot of commas before an and. Well, apparently that's a rule here. So I said, I will stop taking those out.
She was taking out the ones we put in. So.
No, the thing was, I was really happy that my translator, she translated the vibe of the book, but there was still a lot of editing work to be done, and that's what we did the past couple of 2 months almost.
Yeah.
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 no, do they reprint it after you edit it, or is this self-published?
In Holland, I had a publisher.
Mhm.
It was like a kind of a weird construction. It was like a 50-50 deal. So I pay for the print work and the ads and the printing costs and so, but we also split the profit. And my publisher, he didn't expect it to be a bestseller, I guess, because it was a good deal for me.
Good.
Good
But
deal.
I think with
Yay.
with American publisher, that will be a different deal, I guess. But I never did it to make money. I just wanted to work.
That's
Nice
wonderful.
to make money.
Yeah.
It's nice to make money as well. Yeah, of course. Who doesn't like money? But it wasn't my initial. It wasn't. Oh, I'm gonna write a book and make money out of it.
Well, this is an unexpected surprise to have you, and it's
Yes.
wonderful.
Yeah, for me too. I was just about to meditate, and I'm.
Oh no.
It's like a reading.
No.
Well, we wish you the most success, and thank you for
Thanks.
stepping in.
Thank you. And but Brenda's gonna send you guys a copy of the final draft. So
Oh,
be easy
beautiful.
on her if there's still mistakes in it.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'm not
bye.
the only editor.
No, just kidding. Oh,
All right,
that's
thank
fun.
you. Yeah. He didn't know he was going to be in for an interview.
Well, surprise.
Yeah. Is there anyone else who wants to share what they've been working on? Yeah, that
Crickets.
Phone X. I don't know who that is. Okay. Well, I'd like to share a little bit about what I've been doing. I've been through the process of editing my second volume in my new series, Henry Sampson, Private Eye. Not Henry Sampson, Finder of Wrongdoing. And I'm writing the third volume. The first one's already out. And I'm also writing on Substack, and I write a weekly column. And between the editing and the writing the new book and writing on the Substack, my time is pretty well filled up. And I've been enjoying writing the weekly column so much. I've been getting some great feedback on it. And I'm offering it as a lighthearted diversion from the heavy news of the day. And I try to pick subjects that are a little bit unconventional and that yet arouse people's curiosity. The last column I wrote was on cup of noodles, and And it was very interesting. I on a cruise to around Japan. We started in Yokohama, and I looked to see what's there to do in Yokohama, and they have a Cup of Noodles museum. So my wife and I went over to the Cup of Noodles museum, and it was great. You could make your own cup of noodles. It showed you the guy who invented the cup of noodles and how hard it was to make this product work, and it took him years. And his name was Momofuku. His last name was Ando, and Momofuku was just a workaholic. And the last part of his task was to get the noodles. He shaped the noodles to fit in the cup, but when the cup was put down, it would fall over because the noodles weren't balanced. He couldn't get it into the cup. The noodles would tilt to one side or the other. And so he worked on it, and then one day he had a vision, and he filled the cup upside down, and he put the cup on top of the noodles, and then I guess flipped it over, and that eliminated that tilting problem. And now the cup was stable. I thought, this is ingenious, and it really captured me in some way. And now I had the opportunity to write about it. And these cup of noodles, who hasn't eaten a cup of noodles? And they're all over the world. I went shopping yesterday, and this guy was buying a whole big package of these cup of noodles. And so I said, this Momofuku guy, he really did something marvelous. And so that really was the nature of my column. And so it lets me explore little curiosities that intrigue me. And I had one where I wondered, like anchovy fillets, how do they get these little, how do they fillet these little anchovies?
Only you, Howard.
Hey, by the way, did I miss my report? Because I was off of Zoom
no,
trying to.
we haven't gotten down there
No,
yet.
we're not.
Okay, I didn't know.
Yeah,
I
no,
wasn't sure.
You're fine. But the anchovy, you open a can of sardines, the only thing missing is the head, but you got the tail, you got the fins, but not the anchovy. The anchovy is a fillet. It's just the pure little meat of the anchovy, which is much smaller than the sardine. How could that happen? Nobody really knew. And I asked around. So I wrote a little story about it, and I submitted it actually to Straight Jackets, and we'll see if it's accepted. But it was something that intrigued me. So my column is focused on that kind of thing. And
What is Substack for those of us who are not familiar
Good
with?
question.
It's a journal. It's a newspaper type of thing, but online. You know how everything's gone online, and newspapers are not printed much anymore. If they are, they're very narrow. And so people are reading online. Well, there are journalists who were unemployed because newspapers were folding left to right, and someone created a place for them to go. And that place is called Substack. So, and there are some famous journalists who write on it. There's one guy who lives in Brazil, and he started a newspaper, and then his board of directors kicked him off the newspaper. They didn't like his politics or something. And so he went to Substack, and he's doing very well. So, and people can subscribe. If you get a large enough audience, people can subscribe. If you want to do that, you can make your writings available for free, or if you have an ardent following, they can pay $5 a month or more. So it does provide the possibility of income if you have enough followers. So there's a wide variety of things on there. They have cartoons, they have strange little focuses of people's hobbies, and anything you can think of. So it's kind of an interesting and curious thing. So I said, that's where I belong. So that's what I've been doing.
I put the link in the chat for you, Howard, if anybody wants to pop over and read Howard's writing.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. That's very sweet. Okay, is there anyone else who wants to share something? Okay, I don't see any hands. So let me go to the next. Any hands over here? No? Okay, then let's move on. The Straight Jackets magazine. And I just want to say a few words about Straight Jackets before I introduce Ellen and Cheryl.
Don't forget Joe. Don't forget
and-
Joe Lynn.
And Joe Lynn. Okay. And the Straight Jackets magazine is one of the hallmarks of our guild. There aren't very many, I don't think, writers groups in this country, or who knows, maybe even the world, that have a magazine. And you have to be, I won't go through what it takes to be in the magazine, but it's such a high quality magazine that I feel compelled to say something about it. It's better than magazines that are published where they charge for them. And if you're a writer, to have a source where you can have your work be published, it's just a wonderful thing. And in the beginning, I think Jim Hitt was the editor, and Vicky was doing the beautiful artwork. It just looks so great. And Ellen stepped in later and changed the format of how it's published, and everything is just wonderful. I can't say enough about it. So let me introduce Ellen and have her speak to us a little bit about the magazine.
Hey, thanks, Howard, for the plug for the magazine. So now that we're all inspired to be disciplined, or maybe in my case, not so disciplined, but inspired nonetheless, to write, we have a wonderful outlet for your writing, Straight Jackets magazine. We are gearing up for our spring issue, and the deadline is March 15th. So you have plenty of time, 2 weeks plus a few days to submit to us. And please submit to straightjacketsmagazine@gmail.com. And we all know straight is STRAIT. If you'd like to look at the magazine and haven't yet, go to straightjackets.org, STRAIT, jackets.org. And it's what's wonderful about being an editor, and I'm sure Cheryl McGuire, who is our managing editor, and Joe Lynn, who is an editor, we really enjoy reading your work, and there's such a variety. In the winter issue or the fall issue, we had, just to name a few, we had a great story about a wet camping trip from Greg Porterfield. A book excerpt about a fox hunt from Rebecca Miller, an ode to sangria, which was a toast to a friend who was not doing well, by Melody Erickson. Poetry by Erin Schalk called California, about her personal paradise, and poetry from Howard, who was dry docked. And so we have a great variety of things, and some are serious and some are lighthearted, and everything in between. So whatever you're working on, we would love to see it. We encourage you to send. I see faces here of people we have published in the past, and we haven't heard from in a while, so get your pens going. We'd love to hear from you. You do have to be a member to submit. 1,500 words is what we're looking for, but we're flexible. And then for more details about what we're looking for in terms of format, go to the magazine and click on Be a Contributor, and you'll find all the information there. We are also working on Best of Straight Jackets magazine. So we've gone back 5 years. Greg Porterfield is involved with this, as are Joe and Cheryl. And we are about to get back on track. We got sidelined for a while with COVID and a few other life events, but we're ready to get going again. So have I forgotten anything, Cheryl or Joe? No. Okay. All right. So we're looking forward. March 15th is the deadline. Submit your work to straightjacketsmagazine@gmail.com for consideration, and we're looking forward to reading your work.
Oh, thank you, Ellen. I want to call on also Cheryl and Joe. Editing is one of the great things about the magazine, and to have people who step up to edit, and then and they send you little notes if you don't do right. So but to take the time to do that, it's just terrific, and they're such good and focused editors. So let me introduce Cheryl McGuire. You want to say a few words to us about your standards, Cheryl? Or
Well, I find it interesting, actually. I sent a piece to Joe and Ellen. I can't even remember what it was called, where it was a piece that I came across, and it was written all in one sentence. Correct. Do you remember the name of it, Ellen or Joe? What that was called?
I don't.
Okay, anyway, it seemed like, if I remember right, this was a while back, it seemed like it was a perspective written from the perspective of a slave girl, and or someone that was in a position of something like that. But she did it correctly, and it presented, to me anyway, a philosophical conflict in how do we change a writer's voice but when we're editing. So I had presented the question to Joe and Ellen, just superficially, but I wondered what we would have done with that piece. We have broken it into sentences, periods and different things like that, and completely changed how it read. So I find editing interesting. I actually love doing it. But there is a greater question on author's voice. So it's a fine line to trot.
Right, and I'll just throw in that we're very sensitive to your voice, and yes, we edit, but we want to maintain your voice and not edit that out.
Right.
I say that's wonderful. This is a new era of writing, and you're right on top of it. It's wonderful. Jolynn, do you want to say anything about the editing?
The thing that I appreciate most, excuse me, is that when we've had to go back to the submissions authors, they've been very cooperative in making the changes we've suggested. And it's delightful not to have an argument. So we try to do our best, and we appreciate the authors doing their best as well.
Well, that's great. I know I've gotten a few of those, and they want to change my work. They're taking out this little thing. Oh, come on. No, but they were right. So you have to give in to it. It's just part of the writing process. Okay. Now let's move on to Michelle about membership. Unmute yourself, Michelle.
I did.
Okay.
So I'm very pleased actually thus far with the renewals, and some people have come back that maybe in 2020 or 21, they thought, oh gosh, no use in joining because we're not going to have any meetings. Well, they came back because they realized we're still having meetings. So that's nice. A lot of new people have joined. We're doing some outreach as well to the high school at this point through the theater arts department and the creative writing department. It's been a little slow because of timing to be able to actually get in the classroom, but I believe Jessica, who's our treasurer, is going to be speaking to their class in 2 weeks and outlining our program because he's making that part of the curriculum for them to attend our meetings, I believe starting next month, which will be kind of nice. The theater arts and creative writing director over there at Hemet High School. So there's some outreach going there. I'm gonna also send over to you through the chat. The membership benefits are that you get to vote once a year for officers, and you also get to run for office if you're interested. And we always have room for more volunteers, trust me. In fact, we're looking for at this point a new an apprentice webmaster or mistress to apprentice under Lynn so that they're ready to potentially take over that responsibility in October. So if anyone is interested in learning how to do that, that would be fabulous. You get 10% off at Cameron's Books. You're eligible to submit to Straight Jackets, which, as we just heard, is doing phenomenal work. And you also, you have the ability, if you have a published work, to have it included in the list of guild members who are published with a link to the book. So that's kind of a nice benefit as well. So there's a lot of advantages to becoming a member. If you want to become a member, the membership fee is $25 per year. If you're a high school student, it's 10. If you're a college student, it's 15. It is a bit of an honor system. Right now, I don't believe the link is working on the website still. Is that correct, Lynn?
Right.
We're having some issues with WordPress, and a lot of the things that used to be free are no longer free. So I think Lynn and Jessica are investigating and looking at other options to change the website over to another format that's easier. Because right now the PayPal link is not working. However, if you don't want to send a check to the PO box, you can log into PayPal directly. And when you do, you just search out Diamond Valley Writers Guild by using our email address, and you can pay us directly. That's about it. Right now we have 43 paid members. We would love to double that number at least this year. If we're going to go back live, we need to maintain our Zoom presence for those people who are out of the area. And to do that, there's some equipment purchases that need to be made. So even if you've already joined the guild, if you just want to make a donation, we're happy to accept that too. Because as I said, we've probably got about, hold on, my technical guy's next to me. Liam, about how much is it going to take? About $1,500 for web stuff.
Oh, to do the live stream stuff.
Hold on, he's thinking.
We hear the wheels turning.
He had done some preliminary stuff, and I think it was $1,200 to $1,500 worth of equipment in order to do a live stream with interaction.
But it wouldn't necessarily have to all be at once.
But it wouldn't have to necessarily be all at once. Some of the equipment we actually own that we could let the guild use temporarily until we get everything up and running. However, to do that, we do need more members to justify the expense. So get out there. If every single one of you found one person who isn't a member and talk them into joining, that would go a long way toward helping for that effort. And we want to keep our out of state and maybe even out of country. Brenda, you should talk to your friend, see if he wants to become a guild member.
Last I checked, we were trying to keep the price under $1,000.
He said they are trying to keep the price under $1,000, but some of the preliminary figures have been a little bit higher than that. So we'll see. Anyway, that's the update. If you have any questions about membership, feel free. Lynette.
Hey, I just want to mention, if you guys are paying through PayPal, you need to choose the option where you pay the fee so that the guild doesn't get hit with the fee. Because say you pay $20 and you make the guild pay the PayPal fee, then you're really only paying what, $18 or something like that. And so that's extra cost to the guild. It adds up. So choose the option where you're paying the fee to use PayPal.
That would be very much appreciated. I don't think some people do. Most people just hit, the $25 for the renewal, and they don't realize that about $1.50 of that is wasted because we don't get that money. So,
Yeah.
But thank you so much for those that renewed, and let's keep that membership drive going. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Michelle. And I think we should look forward to having interplanetary members. So really broaden our horizons. And I was one of those people who didn't realize you could pay the fee. So I'll bring $1.50 when we see each other again. Okay, now we're moving on to writing tips. And I wanted to change the nature of the writing tips. I wanted to be a little more from our members or people who attend, what it is that works for them. We had this a little bit earlier when we were talking about our successes, and I think that's very valuable. What works for other people who write? And we all know about a dictionary, we all know about a thesaurus, we all know about Grammarly or whatever it is. The technical aspects, the tools of the trade, and hopefully we use them. Some of my colleagues I know aren't quite so assiduous in using those, but what works for you might work for somebody else. And so I thought I would start it off today with sharing what works for me. And when I started writing a novel, I really was lost on how to do it. And I decided to write a novel that takes place in South America. I'm particularly fascinated by South America, and I like the South American countries, the people, the food. Um, I would even like to be South American, but I'm already too far gone. But but the but one of the things about writing, I thought, is I have to do a good description of the place where they are and how they are. Because my wife and I have traveled through South America, and it's just wonderful. So, but you can't always go from your memory, and I didn't think to keep a journal like our friend from Holland did. So I was stuck with doing my own research, and I went to the internet. And the first novel I wrote takes place in Los Angeles and then shifts to Colombia and Cartagena and Medellin. And I've never been to those places. So I started looking at Cartagena and how it was, and what it looked like, and what the restaurants were like. And as I wrote the story, when I needed something about it, I would look at it first. I would look at the buildings. I would look at the apartment buildings. I would look at menus at the restaurants where my characters were eating. And I just found that it added really so much to the understanding of the culture and the setting of where these people were. And I even looked up idiomatic expressions that you would use if you were Colombian to say a particular thing. And it puts you into the mind of someone who lives in that country. Like our translator said just a little bit ago, that doesn't translate to American English. It's different when you're speaking in Dutch than it is when you're saying it to someone who speaks English. So, and it's the same in all of these different countries, even among the countries of Latin America, the way they talk about things, it can vary, and the language they use. So I find the language is the key to the culture and in a lot of respect. So I like to know how it's used, and then I can incorporate some of those subtleties. The problem is you don't ever want to do a data dump. I learned that early on. So I had to settle for little bits and parts of these gems that were just so great that I would have liked to have shared in greater detail. But for the sake of writing a more fluid work, I knew I had to be disciplined and just use the part that was relevant to this little aspect of the story. And so I learned to do that. But it really, I think, broadened my interest in writing the book. And every time I started, if I had nothing to say that day, to write down on the page immediately, the first thing I would do was get on the internet and go to the last place my characters were and look around, or I would read the newspaper in that city and see what's going on there. And then I had something to talk about because it was something that would be in the lives of the everyday people there. Right now, the book I'm writing takes place in Jamaica. I've never been to Jamaica. I know nothing about Jamaica, but they have like 2 or 3 newspapers in Jamaica, and they have a lot of violence in Jamaica. And it's sad to say. I see the commercials on TV and it looks wonderful. Who wouldn't want to go to Jamaica? But it has the most crime per square mile of any country on earth. And that, yes, that shocked me too. And it's, so I included that in my story. I can't change Jamaica. I can just make it real in my book. And so that's what I've been doing. So I would say it's my major writing tip is to, if you're writing a novel, even if it's like in the last century or 2, you can still go to the places where the action took place. But I would say do research. If you're stuck for something to write, take a look around by going on the internet and going to the place. And then you review your last 2 chapters, see where you've come to, and see where there might be a logical place to go from there. And I know in my second book on this new series, I was reading the newspapers in Chile, and I stumbled across this problem they were having with the Santiago Stock Exchange, where this company in Tierra del Fuego, a salmon company, was growing salmon in the Antarctic waters, and they were supposed to be pure and supposed to be, as fresh as it could be and as healthy as it could be. And it turned out there was some bacteria that killed off a lot of the salmon, but the company didn't report it to the government, which they're supposed to do. They hid it, and it created a scandal, and they were being investigated. I said, that's a great theme for my book. And so I took that in and I said, I'm going to use this, because even I had to change the name of the company and all of that. But in South America, and especially in Chile and Peru, fishing is their major industry. So here's someone in that industry who is being crooked. I said, yes, there's tension there, even though you wouldn't think, a fishing story would be the one that a writer would get interested in. But, there was crime involved, and it was great. So in that book, my character is a forensic accountant, so he likes looking into the money. So anyway, that's from my perspective of how I see my writing, and I hope what I've shared has had some interest to you. So that's it.
Thank you, Howard.
Okay, and next time we meet, I'm going to call on one of you to share your writing process, what motivates you, and more than just sitting down. I know Lynn is a very well organized person, but there's more to her writing than just sitting down. And I'm sure there's things she could share about how it happens. And all of you know how you work inside, and some of the things that you think and some of the things you think to do are valuable to other people. So we'll get you to share them as the months go on.
Okay.
How are we doing on our guest speaker? Any word?
I'm here.
She's
Hi,
here.
Howard.
Oh, Angela. All right. Oh my God.
I was listening to you talk about Jamaica.
Yeah. Oh, great. I'm glad you're here. Let me introduce Lynette so she can give you a proper introduction. Lynette, go ahead.
Okay, well, I'm really excited for you guys to hear Angela's presentation today. I heard her speak last year, and I was excited to get her to agree to come talk to us. So I think what's really exciting about it is we have a mutual common goal as writers to put words on paper to capture the human experience. So it doesn't really matter what genre we're writing in. We all have that need to capture our thoughts and share with others. So I'm gonna turn it over to Angela, and she's gonna talk about the writer's journey. So welcome,
right.
Angela.
Thank
Yes,
you.
welcome.
So I'm gonna try this share screen button and see what happens.
Okay.
Because I have a
Yay.
PowerPoint, so now you can see that. Let's see
Oh,
if
there it
can-
is.
Hey, it really worked. It really worked.
Yeah.
We were
so
holding our breath.
slideshow. I know, you guys, I am so glad to be here. I am actually in training to be a flight attendant. I don't know, did anybody know that?
We got a whiff of that.
Okay. So here we go, from beginning. All right, so, well, just real quick. Yeah, I woke up in Phoenix this morning, and then we flew to LA, and then we flew here to Sacramento. I'm in Sacramento. And I was praying that we would not have a flight delay, because when I signed up to be a flight attendant, I don't really have any say in my training times. And this was what was given to me. And I was like, I think I can do it. I hope I can do it. So I'm so glad to be here. And what Howard was saying is a great segue, because researching locations is one of my favorite things to do. And I was even sitting next to a girl on the plane today, and she mentioned Detroit. And like, all I know from Detroit is from a book I read by Stephen James. Have you guys read any Stephen James?
Mm-mm.
And I'm just so fascinated from Detroit, just from this book. I don't know anything else about it, but I know there's bomb shelters from World War II that would make great places to hide out for bad guys. And I know that people are moving away and just abandoning houses. And So there's not enough people paying taxes for police. And so crime is running rampant. So talk about a great location for a crime novel or a mystery. Location plays a huge part. So Howard, I thought that was a fun segue to what I'm going to talk about, which is enjoying the writer's journey. I don't only like to write great stories for my characters. I want to live an amazing life. And some has been good, some has been bad, but I'm just gonna learn through it all. That's my goal. So I'm Angela Ruth Strong. We'll see. Okay, so there we go. All right, we're talking about the writer's journey. And you guys have probably seen this. Are you all novelists? Is this all fiction?
I think primarily.
Mostly, yeah.
Okay, well, even if you write nonfiction, you can still use these techniques for crafting good nonfiction. And this is what a story looks like. There's the beginning, the rising action, or as Bill Myers would describe it, like you're headed somewhere and then there's a wall that gets in the way. And so you have to have enough of a motivation to climb that wall. And then you get over the wall and you think you're headed back towards your goal because this is where you want to go, but then there's a higher wall. And so you just have to keep climbing, your character has to keep climbing those walls. That's going to take him to the climax, which is my favorite part of a book, where all hope is lost. Like you don't think they're going to make their goal. You don't think there's any possible way that it could have a good outcome. And then there's this beautiful moment of overcoming where they attain the goal or they don't attain the goal, but learn something through it. And then the falling action there. So I think I just said everything I wrote down. Let's go on to the next slide. So some of you guys said that you read about my movie that's coming out. It's Finding Love in Big Sky. This is me in the middle there, my hubby on the far left, and we got to go be extras in the cowboy ball scene in Bozeman, Montana. And this is a dream of mine. I mean, I thought it was unattainable. My mom was a writer, so I knew that writing was attainable. But I just thought that'd be so amazing if a book ever got made into a movie, and somehow it did, and we got to be part of that. But in having that goal, I was reading the book, The Emotional Craft of Fiction, and by Donald Moss, who I highly recommend if you're looking for a good book on writing craft. And he said this quote, he said, "Prestige matters greatly to some, money to others, and movie options to a misguided few." And I remember reading that and just thinking, being misguided is fun. And so that was my goal through this. And now that my goals come true, I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen now. But that was a great experience. You can see the two actors, Paisley and Josh, holding my book there. And then the brother, or the guy on the right, he plays a brother who is in one of the books in the series. So that's a little bit about me. And my journey, my writing journey would look a lot like this, because as I pursued my goal of wanting to have a book made into a movie, I had to overcome some challenges. And I think this is true in life. And a lot of the things I talk about in life are true for your writing. Your story should mirror reality, which is what's going to make it resonate with your readers. But I think that point that they call it the inciting incident, and you see the little red dot there where gifts are used immaturely. I think the inciting incident is so often like the flip side of the coin. It's like your weakness that gets the character in trouble, whatever their weakness is. But on the flip side of the coin is their strength. And as their gifts grow from the weakness to the strength, their gift is going to be used more maturely. And that's what's going to be able to help them overcome. Like if you think of Star Wars, Luke was wanting to go fight the Jedi, but he was immature. And that's what started everything with him trying to rescue Princess Leia on his own. That's what got him into trouble. But as his gift of the Force grew and it matured, that is what helped him overcome in the end. And so that's how I kind of like to picture my stories, because we all have gifts. And we all have strengths, and we all need to grow to use them. Otherwise, they're going to get us into trouble. So what drives you to grow? And it's going to be different for everybody. And I stole this from when I was going through a premarital counseling, and we were talking about spending styles. And so I took the spending styles, how we spend our money, and I stuck it with how we spend our time writing, like what it is that we're working towards as we write. And so some are working towards status, and those are the one who enter awards contests, they pursue interviews and bestsellers lists, who get endorsements from who's. Now, none of these are bad. These are just different motivators for each of us. So if you know what motivates you, that can be where you focus on your time and growing your strengths that way. Another motivator is stability. So some people stick with the same genre, they stay with the same publisher, they use the same formula because it's stability that they want for their writing career. That works great for like Susie Mae Warren or my friend Lisa Phillips. I'm from Boise, if you didn't know that, and that's where Lisa's from. And she's just doing great things with having a formula that works for her and doing it over and over and over and busting out books faster than I can read them. That's not my style, but that works for her, and I love that for her. Control. So those who like control are going to probably do better with self-publishing. They're going to learn to use ads. There's Amazon ads, there's Facebook ads. This is not my strength. This is not where I excel. It makes me want to pull my hair out to try these things. But there's people who are great at it, and in being able to control, that being their strength and their motivation, they can use that to teach others to do well and sell their books well. As for me, what motivates me is enjoyment, which drives my agent crazy by writing an assortment of genres. I put myself out there in embarrassing ways. I try to be best friends with everyone. And as you can see here, this picture here where Captain America is reading my latest book, that was actually Janet McHenry. She's another writer from California. And so she's like, Angela, I want a selfie with you and your book. And so I said, well, let me photobomb you. And so she held my book and I stuck my thumbs up in the background. And then people were like, oh, I wish I could have a picture like that. So I took her face out and I was like, okay, anybody can have me photobomb you reading my book now. And Dave Barry, I think it is, sent me this picture with Captain America, which actually fits the story because the story is about a list from the 1950s on how to get a husband being used by a modern day woman today. So I think Captain America would approve. So growing our strengths, this was a really interesting strength test that I took, like a personality test that I took that I hadn't, it's not one of the common ones. It's different. And I believe it won a Pulitzer. All right. And what's the other P? There's another award that starts with a P. I don't have it open so that I can see you text messaging. So if you're answering me right now, I can't see that. I'm sorry.
Are you thinking push cart? Push cart?
No.
Okay.
Thank you. So anyway, it divided your strengths up into how good you are with people, how good you are with doing the work, and how good you are with systems. So I'm pretty good with people, as you can see. I'm pretty good at doing the work. I mean, I got up at 4 a.m. to hand out crackers on a couple airplanes, so I don't mind doing the work. But systems, I'm like, whoop. Like where I mentioned my friend Lisa, who she has a formula that she writes over and over and over and writes a whole lot of books and teaches other people how to do that. That's a system. She's great at that, not me. I like I said, enjoyment. So I like trying new things. And so a lot of my books, I'll read a different writing book with every book I write. And I'll be like, I want to try that style. I want to try that style just because it's fun for me. So the systems things I don't do very well at. But what's interesting is they said the most successful people are those who are high at with working with people and those who are high at working with systems because they create the systems and they get the people to do all the work for them. So I was just fascinated with that. Oh, maybe I can look at the chat here. Nope. Oh yeah. The name of this strength test. I'll see if I can find the name for that, you guys. So in knowing that this is not my strength, I know I'm not going to be Dave Ramsey. I know I'm not going to be, who else? Can you guys think of other people who are good at this? Like Susan Mae Warren. She teaches people to use her systems to write books. And they are very successful. Jim Rubart. Do you guys know any of these names? That's okay if you don't. So anyway, I know that I am not going to be them. So what I get from this is don't compare your strengths with others. I'm going to move the little, moving all your faces so I can read my own writing. Excelling in your strengths will take you farther than focusing on your weakness. So if I just try to work on systems, one, I'm not going to enjoy it, which is my motivation. And two, even if I were to get better at systems, I might only ever be as good as as on the low end. Somebody who's naturally good at systems, they can excel with it. But if I work really hard, I'm never going to get there. So it's better to focus on what I'm good at and be willing to step out of my comfort zone. So if there is something that I need to work on a system, I'm going to have to try that to move towards what I do want to do with my career. Any questions on that? I don't know if I explained that all very well. Okay, we'll move on. Maybe. How do I get it to go to the next slide? There we go. Okay, so this is my strength. This is what I'm good at here. These are some fun things that I've done with my writing group. So if you look up in the top left-hand corner, this is when I was writing Finding Love in Big Sky, which is the book made into a movie. I had severe writer's block with that one because I don't know anything about horses and it's set on a ranch. So Howard was talking about researching, open a newspaper or whatever if you need to research. So I got stuck with this book and I was like, I don't know what to do because I don't know anything about horses. So I called my friend who had a farm and I was like, can I come over? And so she taught me about horses, and a lot of the things in that, like on her farm, made it into my story because it just inspired me so much. And here, this Escape This Live, that is my writing group in Boise, Idaho. We were doing an escape room with a pirate theme, which is why I'm wearing a bandana on my head. Because a lot of us are mystery and suspense writers, so it's kind of fun to do that. Over here, this is my writing group again. This is when I was going through cancer. And so I had a whole bunch of wigs and we were at a writing retreat and they're all wearing wigs with me. And then at that same writing retreat over on the far right, Lisa, my friend that I was talking about, Lisa Phillips, she had us decorate cakes to look like our book covers. So this is fondant that she brought, and this is my book, A Cup of Trouble. I was trying to design it to look like my book cover. And we'll just keep going around. So if you go down, that's Jackson Hole. That's another location that I went to visit for a story. It's in Wyoming. And then go over to see my bloody thumb. Mm-hmm. That was when I was researching what it feels like to get locked in the trunk of a car. So I had my writing friends lock me in the trunk of a car to see if I could escape. And I live videoed it. So if you go to my Facebook writing page, you can watch that video. And I got out. There's a little light that flips on in your trunk and there's a little latch you can pull. So I was able to escape. And it wasn't until I got into the house that I realized I was bleeding from doing that. And so that actually ended up in my book too. I had her escape and not realize that she was bleeding from the escape. Go up, that's my friend Jill Williamson, who she writes a lot of weird things. She writes clones and dystopian and stuff that makes my brain melt. And when I try to help her brainstorm, I'm not good with those things. But we were taking a class there learning about, that's a police officer in the background. So he was teaching a class on how to fingerprint and stuff like that. Here in the middle, this is my friend Heather Woodhaven, and we did a police academy together. It was Police and Firemen's Academy. So we got to drive the fire trucks and the police cars. And this is actually inspiration for the book I'm working on now. I'm working on a book called Hero Rehearsals about a writer who goes to police academy to learn how to write a better screenplay. And she just drives the cop crazy. He can't stand her, but of course they fall in love. And then if you go down to Min Scat, so I told you that my experience at the farm, at the ranch, helped me write my book, Finding Love in Big Sky. So my friend's horses, and not the one in the picture, but they were all Norwegian fjord horses. And so I decided to make my character's grandpa Norwegian, and I researched Norwegian sayings, and I had him call her min skatt, which means my treasure in Norwegian. And that was a big theme in the book and in the movie. Every single one of the actors walked up to me and was like, what is min skatt? Like they didn't get it at first. But it meant so much to one reader friend of mine that she had the tattoo done on her arm because she's Norwegian. And so she had like a Norwegian font to remind herself that God sees her as a treasure. And then over there, I'm at the Sundance Film Festival. I volunteered to be a volunteer at the film festival as research for a novel. And then if you look up at the one where we all look like really unhappy pioneer settlers, that was the Target dress challenge. I don't know if you heard about that. Target released all these dresses that looked like something Laura Ingalls Wilder would have worn. So there was a challenge to buy the dress and then tried to take old timey pictures. So those are my writer friends and I dressed up like pioneers for the Target dress challenge. And then down below, we had a Barnes and Noble book signing with, I wrote for a line for Harlequin. So there's 4 of us who wrote for Love Inspired Suspense in Boise. And we did a book signing at Barnes and Noble, and it was also Mother's Day. So I got the limo for our book signing and for my mom's to take her to church on Mother's Day, which my sister said was very eccentric of me. But we had fun, and that's what motivates me. All right, so this is how I got started with my writing. This is an article my mom wrote about me when I was little, and I hated that haircut there, and now I kind of have a similar haircut, but oh well. So she wrote about me and she'd send articles to magazines when I was little, and I grew up reading her stories. And so, like I said, I knew I could do that. So I did. I was cheerleading in high school, and a basketball player ran into me and knocked me into the bleachers, and I broke 4 ribs. And I wrote about it. And then I was like, you send it to a magazine, right? That's what you do. So my mom helped me. And I was 16 and I made $100, and that was the easiest money I'd ever made. So I said, I think I'll go to school for writing. So it hasn't ever been that easy since. And then I started my family right away. So my stories kind of grew up with my kids. This was in Hopscotch magazine. This one it's called Gymnastics Grandma, and it was inspired when I took my kids to a birthday party at a gymnastics center, and they were advertising senior discounts. And I was like, is that like high school senior or grandma? I wasn't sure. And so I made it about grandma. And then my first novel I sold in 2008. It was Halloween. I was dressed up like Tinkerbell when I got the call, and it was part of the Love Finds You line. And so a lot of these books have actually been made into movies. And I didn't know that was going to happen. I was pretty shocked actually when the first one came out, the first movie. So they were Love Finds You in, and then all these places across the country. So mine was in Sun Valley, Idaho. The very first one was Sun Valley, Idaho. But other writers who had much more experience than me, they wrote stories set in Alaska and Hershey, Pennsylvania. And so Costco was selling them, and I got to do my very first book. It was in hardcover. I got to do a Costco signing, and this was such a gift. I don't feel like I deserved I sold the book on the proposal. I'd only written 3 chapters. I'd written 2 books, and I'd gotten an agent, and my agent was shopping it. And then I saw that this Love Finds You line was coming out, and all you had to do is write 3 chapters and a synopsis. So I was like, I could do that. And then when she called me, I thought it was going to be about one of these other books that I'd spent years on. And it was this book I hadn't even written yet. So I really don't feel like I deserved that, but it was just a gift for where I was at in life. And like God was saying, you can do this, keep going. So it was a great experience. I got to do the Costco book signing. I got, but I didn't expect the movies at all. And another writer on Facebook was sharing pictures of herself with Courtney Cox at some film festival. And I was like, what? And so I Googled, and they had optioned 7 of the books for film, and mine was one of them. And I hadn't even been told, like nobody told me that. I didn't know that. So I freaked out a little bit and I couldn't believe my eyes, and it was on my phone, and I ran downstairs to my husband and I was like, read this. He thought somebody had died. But really, I'd had my book option for film. Now they didn't end up making this one, and they had their reasons. Oh, I'm looking at your notes. So Karen said she remembers seeing the tattoo in the article. That's cool. Okay. Yeah, so they didn't make it, and I feel like the book industry is pretty crazy, but the movie industry is even crazier. I don't know what's going on, but they did not make this one into a movie because I think a couple reasons. There was whitewater rafting, and so that would have been hard to film, kind of dangerous. And then also it was about an actress filming a whitewater rafting movie, so then they would have had to use the cameramen as extras and cameramen, and I guess it just got too. So I like had this hope that this would be made for a long time, and then it never was. Let's see if I'm, oh, enter. I don't know if my computer is freezing up or why it's not. There we go. Okay, so anyway, I sold that first book, and like I said, I felt like I wasn't ready for it, but I felt like it was a gift because right after I sold that, my first husband left me. And I felt like such a failure. And I think it was, because I know this isn't a Christian group, but I do believe in God. So I'm just going to talk about my personal beliefs. So I believe that God was like, you can do this, keep going. And, but because I had to write a romance as my husband left me and my marriage fell apart, I didn't want to write romance anymore. So I started writing this series, and I'd sold a short story, The Waterfight Professional, which had been in the Summer Shorts Anthology. And it had been inspired. My son was probably like 4 at the time, and we were at a picnic, and all the older kids were water fighting, and I could tell he wanted to get involved. So I gave him a cup of water and I said, go dump it on your dad. But then his dad saw him coming and said, I'll give you $1 to dump it on your mom. So I got wet and he got paid, and he fell asleep that night holding on to the dollar bill. And I said, look what you created. He's going to become a water fight professional. And so that's where the idea for that story came from. And it was just a short story at first, but it came out in the Summer Shorts Anthology, and then it got picked up by the New York School Board, and it was printed in over 500,000 tests in New York. So at that point I was like, well, I don't want to write romance, and there's 500,000 kids reading about this character. Maybe I could make it a series. Thanks, Karen. I am seeing your messages if you guys want to message me. So the Water Fight Professional and the Snowball Fight Professional, it's for ages 8 to 12, which was really fun because I was able to share it with my kids as they were growing up. Those were nominated for some awards. The Water Fight Professional has been pitched to a director. I think it'd make a great movie. I would have so much fun with that. But that hasn't happened yet. Yeah, thanks, Lynn. I do have, this is what energizes me. I think when you find your motivation and you're doing something you love, that's gonna energize you. And again, I'm trying to, there we go. Okay, so after that, I met Mr. Strong, and we ended up getting married. And this is not a real book. This was used at our wedding in Leavenworth, Washington. So we kind of created it to look like a book. And I've actually had people say, I can't find your book. Love finds you in Leavenworth, Washington. But that was just a wedding favor. We wrapped it around little chocolates, so it looked like a little chocolate book. But that showed me what love was for reals. And so then I wanted to write love stories again. And it just so happened that the movie producer who had started making the Love Finds You movies broke apart from that publisher, and she wanted to start doing Finding Love In and start making those. And so I connected with that publisher. I wrote a series of 5 books, and it just happened that the brother, or the main character in my first novel, had 4 brothers. So I just wrote all their romance novels. And I fell in love with writing romance again. And there's nothing else I'd rather write about now. I think love changes the world. Oh, though, death is fun too. This was My Presumed Dead. This is the book that I wrote for Harlequin because my friends were all writing for Harley Quinn. It was a learning experience. I had to completely change my ending, which I was very cranky about. It actually did come out better. So I learned through that, but I don't think it's a good fit for me because I like to write a lot of humor, and they took out all my jokes. So I was like, maybe not anymore. But I feel kind of cool saying I wrote a Harley Quinn novel. And then here's some other things I've done. So these are book sets with other authors. And this was really working for a while. The writing market is kind of like the Wild West with Kindle. And I mean, it's changing all the time. So what was working for a while was a bunch of writers writing a full-length novel, putting it together. So if you see over on this far one, Exposed, there were 7 of us in that set at first. So it was 7 full-length novels we sold for 99 cents. And we sold so many of those books that we actually got a bonus from Amazon. I didn't even know that was a thing. I ended up taking my daughter for her graduation. We went to London and Paris on what I made just from that 99-cent book. So there's no right or wrong way because everything's changing. So you just have to find what works for your style and what's going to work with getting your books in front of the people who want to read them. And then this one I gave away as a reader magnet, The Princess and the PI. Some people think it says The Princess and the Pie, but that doesn't really make sense. So it's The Princess and the PI. And I'll give this one away for free on my website. If you go there and sign up for my newsletter, you'll get this free novel. And so I've been able to grow my newsletter that way. And then here's my mystery series that I had a lot of fun with. So mysteries I discovered are very hard for me. I felt like I was writing in circles most of the time. I feel like by the last one, I kind of figured it out. But they're fun because there's humor and romance along the way. So I think people will put up with them for that reason. But I wrote this because the same producer who made my movie, she hadn't yet made my Big Sky movie, but she said Hallmark was looking for mysteries set in coffee shops or tea houses. And I was like, I could do that. So again, that's what drove me, and it did not become a movie, but I had fun learning through that. And then I hit a wall in my own journey. I got breast cancer. And so I stopped writing through all of this. And it was definitely a journey. We go to the Boise State games. So I had my Boise State cancer shirt, and there I dyed my hair pink before I shaved it off because I was like, pink for breast cancer, why not? And there I am in a wig. And then I got admitted to the hospital because my blood counts were so low. I had a neutropenic fever that was just from the normal bacteria you have in your body, but my blood counts were so low I couldn't even fight that off. And then right before COVID hit, before the world went crazy, we went to Disneyland together, my husband and I. That's Mr. Strong there. And then here's where we shaved my head. Those are my 3 children. They're all out of the house now, which is why I'm becoming a flight attendant. I just worked at the ticket counter and the gate while my kids were at home because I wanted the flight benefits. But now that they're gone, like I could travel the world. So here I go. So my baby had long hair that she offered to give me to be made into a wig. And I was like, no, I can't take your hair. But that was right after my head was shaved and she laid her hair over my head, which was so sweet. And then I think there's one more. Okay, yeah. And then my last day of chemo, I was going through chemo as COVID shut down the world. And it was the last 2 months of my chemo where my blood counts sank. And they're like, you have to go home. You can't go anywhere. You could die of a common cold. And so I went home and cried. And then a week later, the whole world shut down. And then I was kind of like, oh, I'm not missing that much. So I'm sorry you guys all had to go through that with me. But that was my last day of chemo. Nobody could come into the hospital room with me. But the nurses were there and they celebrated. And so through that journey, I think this is just part of my journey to writing better love stories and offering more love to the world, because when my first husband left me, I felt like I had to earn love, and I told you I'm a doer, so I'm doing things trying to earn people's loves. And I think through my cancer, I could do nothing. Like I couldn't write, I couldn't do anything. I tried doing this one time when I was going through cancer. Somebody wanted me to speak online, so I got online and I spoke, and I was at the wrong place the whole time. Like, and after that, I was like, yeah, I'm done. I can't think. So through that time, I could do nothing, but I was more loved than I've ever been. And I think that was just healing for me. And so in my own journey of writing romance novels, like I have the strength of love, but it could be used immaturely. And that's where it was when I started out and I went through a divorce. And I think my understanding that has matured me to the point where I can now write better romance novels. I'm hitting enter. Okay, there we go. So these are some of the things I did miss out on when I quit writing from cancer. So I was supposed to be in this Something Borrowed set. See that in the center on the top? I was supposed to have my own wedding dress with my name right there. But I couldn't write. And so they took me out of that one. It was kind of funny because somebody was telling me about the set they read. And they're like, it was so cute, Something Borrowed. And I was like, oh yeah, I was supposed to be in that. But that's okay. Because I was living my own life journey, and that we all have seasons of life. This is another box set I was supposed to be in, The Melodies of Christmas Love. And then I did sell my book, Prayers of an Abandoned Wife. And I asked my agent to get me an extension on that because I was like, I can't finish it when I'm going through chemo. And they ended up dropping me. So I don't know what I'm going to do. I've finished the book now, so we'll see what happens with it. Here's my latest, and I'd finished writing husband auditions. Right. Let me see how we're doing for time.
I'm not here.
Doing good. Okay. Right before I got cancer, so that book was done, and my agent shopped it, and she sold it when I was going through cancer. And so that's me. There's my really short hair. I got to sign my contract for this book, and I've had so much fun with this one. I didn't have a contract for this when I wrote it. I just wrote it because I had an idea and I was excited about it. And I kind of like that there's paper airplanes on it because I feel like that fits my journey right now. This morning I saw that it was in World Magazine with a couple other books. Somebody linked me on an article, including this book, Husband Auditions, and World Magazine. So I was like, who cares about my book? The world. And then I also wrote a cancer picture book. So while I couldn't write, there was also nights where I couldn't sleep because they would give me steroids. And I kind of felt like a ghost in my own house. I couldn't sleep, so I'd just wander around. And then I had this idea one night of explaining cancer to a kid in a way that made him feel like a superhero. And we've changed the title on this one now, but I got an illustrator, and my agent is now shopping this one. So I'm excited to see what will happen with this. This is not how I would have planned my life. I don't think any character in any of our books would have, they have the goal they want to get to. None of them want to go through the challenges that it takes to get there. We want to plot our own stories that way, but that's what enables us to overcome in the end, that growth through that. So here's my movie. At first, when they were shopping it, they called it Starlight Christmas, but then they ended up selling it under the title of the book, and those are the actors there. So that was actually in Montana, which I was really excited about because I feel like they go to Canada a lot, but we were really in Montana. And so I was explaining this earlier, my own journey as a romance writer, starting out at the beginning, trying to earn love, and then growing in my understanding of love, and then being able to share my love with everyone I meet. So I want to talk about a few of the misbeliefs that could hold you back as a writer. I think that's what this is. Oh, I think we all have to overcome our misbeliefs. So I'm reading what I wrote here. This is good stuff. So having misbeliefs doesn't make you stupid. There were circumstances in your past where your misbeliefs were true. Our misbeliefs help us cope, but they won't help us heal. So examples, when my first husband said, don't make me hate you, or with the kind of wife you've been, you're lucky I didn't have more affairs. Those were my misbeliefs. And I believe that we're all wounded. The hero and the villain are both wounded in the story. And the villain hides their wounds with evil, while the hero finds healing through self-sacrifice. So sacrificing your misbeliefs is really hard. But that's how we become heroes. And we usually find that like what we want and our misbelief are not going to allow us to go in the same direction. They're at war. And so we're going to have to let one of those go. And an example of this, I don't know if you've seen the movie National Treasure 2. There's a bad guy in that movie, but he ends up sacrificing himself for everyone else to live. And because of that, he becomes a hero. So, or you could go again back to Star Wars, Darth Vader. He let go of his misbelief and he sacrificed himself and became a hero in the end for that one. So I like to think of that whenever I'm writing a story. And then facing fears. So for your characters to overcome their fear or misbelief, you have to give them a bigger fear. So imagine, oh yeah, I wrote this down, but imagine a mom is afraid of swimming pool. She's afraid of water, but if her baby falls into the water, she has a bigger fear of losing her child. So then she overcomes the smaller fear. So I like to think the Bible says we shouldn't fear man, only God. God is our bigger fear, allowing us to overcome our smaller fears. And for me, fearing God gives us the freedom to write what he's prepared for us to write. So stepping out in writing is scary. You're going to have some fears that are going to hold you back, but you have to find the bigger fear, maybe the losing an opportunity or never knowing what you could have done if you pursued a dream. Those kinds of things can move you forward. And then also black moments. So I keep this in mind. If you think about the little arc that I made, there was the black moment, the moment where all hope was lost. The darker that moment in your story, the more powerful the story of overcoming. So when I was going through my divorce and everything was horrible, and then my car broke down on the side of the road, that was me.
Oh my God, this is terrible.
Like shaking my fist at heaven, being like, I am on to you. I know you are giving me a powerful story of overcoming because this moment just keeps getting worse. And so that's even advice from Donald Moss in one of the books of his that I really enjoyed. It said, when everything is going wrong for your character, make it worse and make it worse. Then make it worse. You don't want to rescue your characters. That doesn't make good reading. There's a book that I really loved by Deanne Gist, and it was during the gold rush. And it was 3 orphans and their dad had died. And so they're in the gold rush trying to survive. And so one of the girls sings and all the men put their gold in a hat for her, and then they have money. And Deanne's sister was reading the manuscript and she's like, you just rescued them. You just made it too easy. So then she had the older sister come and take the hat of gold and ridicule her little sister for selling herself to these men. And then she takes the hat of gold and she throws it and all the gold goes flying. So that created a more memorable moment in the book. And also like the reader is going to be like, oh no, and it makes a blacker moment. So don't rescue your characters, continue to make it all worse and worse. Now, in order for the message of your book to be powerful, it has to overcome the strongest argument against it. For example, if your message is against abortion, you have to deal with all the arguments for abortion. You have to deal with pregnancy by rape or the possibility of a mother dying. And I'm not picking sides here. I'm just giving an example. Whatever it is that you want your message to be, you can't be preachy. That's what makes it preachy, is if you're not dealing with all the powerful arguments against it. And then if your message is against premarital sex. So again, you guys, I'm a Christian. I write in the Christian book market. These are pretty common. you have to make the reader feel the main character's desire or loneliness. You have to make them almost want your character to make the wrong choice, because otherwise your message is it's just gonna be preachy. It's gonna be like, it was like one book I read. My mom gave me a book to read as a teenager where the black moment was just the boy holding up a condom and going, "Is it time for this?" And then she's like, "No." And then he goes and gets AIDS. So that's preachy. That's what we don't want. We want the reader to feel that desire and then to experience the consequences of it, and to grow through that. So you have to make it look like the other side is going to win. As an author, this may mean you'll get stuck for a while. That is okay. We've all been there in life. And whether it's real or whether it's fiction, being stuck forces you to seek God for direction, or a new direction forces you to grow. So this is, the book Rain was a book that, I'm just going to tell this story, you guys, because I don't know where you're at or what you're struggling with. But my friend here, Dana McNeely, had written this amazing book called Rain, and she'd entered it in a contest, and it was getting rave reviews, but publishers were saying, we can't print publish biblical fiction. It's not selling right now. And agents were saying, nope, I can't sell that. But so she actually quit writing for a while. So I'm telling you guys this to encourage you wherever you at, there's seasons in life, don't give up. You've got a story too. So Dana's story is that I read part of the manuscript in a contest and I loved it years ago. This was years ago. And then years later, when I was going through a dry place in my life, I remembered that book. And I remembered another book that I judged in the same contest that had gotten published, and she'd won lots of awards. So I was like, Rain probably got published. I want to go find it and read it. I didn't know who had written it because it was a blind contest. And I couldn't find the book. So I wrote to the contest committee and I was like, hey, do you guys remember this year, this manuscript that I really loved? Could you find out who wrote it? Because I really want to read the rest of it and find out if it got published. So we kind of did a whole little detective thing where we tracked down the author, and it was Dana McNeely. And I told her how much I loved her book. She wasn't expecting to get a random Facebook message for me one day. She was totally blown away when I was like, hey, are you the author of Rain? I loved that. And my publisher ended up publishing it, and it was nominated for a Christie Award last year, I believe. And it was just so exciting to be a part of that in her personal story, her own writing journey, and to go from having a book in a drawer that she didn't think would ever see the light of day, but we just never know the timing. Like, it had been years before when I read it, when I wrote to her, and then just out of nowhere, it ended up becoming a award nominee. So I just want to say that growth will hurt like chemotherapy, but it prevents harm and it heals you from the cancer of this world, from your misbeliefs, from your fear, and from your black moments. And then here's a couple of quotes that helped me. I knew a breast cancer patient that said, whenever I felt down, I'd take off my clothes and jump in front of a mirror. It was guaranteed to make me laugh. And then I also like the quote by C.S. Lewis, joy is the serious business of heaven. So I just want to encourage you to see God as the author of your life and enjoy the writer's journey that he's prepared for you. And this was a little exercise we did in the class that I taught. We'll skip that. So I spoke at a kids camp one time on, like, I was like, I know what's going to happen in your future. And then I showed them the little chart. I was like, you're going to want something and you're going to have to overcome it. And then afterwards, one little girl came up to me and she prayed this for me. She said, dear Lord, give her the writing that she needs. And that stuck with me because I think if you're here right now, I think that's a desire in your heart. And I think that you do need this. And I think there's a purpose for it. And so that's my prayer for you, is that God would give you the writing that you need. So I'm going to go up here to the chat room. If you guys have any questions, let's see. So how many of my books have been self-published? Like I said, I'm really bad at doing the ads and stuff. So I've only self-published when other people are putting together book sets. I've let them do that work. So I think I've been in 3 of those book sets. And then my Princess and the PI, I just gave away. And then they were like, hey, how do we review it? And so then I put it on Amazon just because they were asking where to review it. So that's on there, but I don't really make any money. I give that one away. See. Oh, Brenda said, thank you for sharing your journey. Thank you, Brenda. And Michelle said, inspiring. So I hope that you guys did get some inspiration out of this. I'm so glad I was able to join you because we had a delayed flight in LA and I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna make it. And the rest of the crew went down to get free breakfast here at Embassy Suites. And I just ran up to my room to hang out with you guys. So thank you again for having
Well, Angela,
me.
I want to thank you very much on behalf of the Diamond Valley Writers Guild. And your story is very inspirational and your dedication is obvious. And it's a wonderful thing that you've been able to work through whatever the difficulties in your life have been. And I guess that's what the inspiration is. And you're right, we all have our own difficulties and we all try to work through them. And you've done it while continuing to write and seeing the bright side. And I really admire you for that. And if anybody has anything else, maybe you can stay around for a few minutes and answer any questions. That would be great. I want to announce our next month's speaker. For those of you who might have to go, next month we have a food and travel writer named Carol Bumpus, and she's won a number of awards. She was a finalist for Travel Nonfiction, International Book Awards finalist for a cookbook, Searching for Family and Traditions at the French Table. Book 2 is a culinary travelogue of French proportions. Bumpus weaves wonderful stories into her adventures, but at the same time, she gives her readers fly-on-the-wall glimpses of ordinary family life and the opportunity to savor with her incredible cuisine of France. So those are some of the highlights of reviews she's gotten. And we haven't had a food and travel writer. And so next month will be the time, and it'll be a journey for all of us. So thank you very much for attending, and those who want to stay around and talk with Angela, she's been gracious enough to do that.
Well, I just wanted to say, I really think that, me over here, Angela, you have so inspired me. You know, you have sort of a wry sense of humor about some of the most grievous things. And I really wanted, I know we couldn't chuckle or laugh or anything while you were talking, but I wanted to give you a big, applause for that, for getting through your strength. I also wanted to say that I appreciated the part about not sending in the Marines at the end of the story, get people out of their problems. I just, as much as I have written, I still keep finding myself making the same mistakes, but it's so satisfying when you turn it around, you realize, oh, my character's being rescued. You change it around and have the character take affirmative steps to fight their way out of their own problem. The last thing I wanted to say is that the people, what you talked about with the misbelief, it's so much about, like, we have some therapists in this group that are listening right now. I know that this will resonate for them, is that people believe what they need to believe and they construct their own view of the world to protect themselves in tough situations, like children who are being abused or people who are going through domestic violence. They build a worldview that protects them. And then they get out of that world and hopefully go on to an adult life where they're not being abused anymore, but they still hold on to those same strategies and they no longer serve them. And the joy for me of reading fiction and attempting to write decent fiction is trying to show that you're free, that you can move past those original wounds, those misbeliefs that served you so well when you were a damaged child, but now they're holding you back, but you could be free. So that's the fun of it for me. And you just made me remember all that stuff and sort of lit me up again. So thanks.
Yeah, I think psychology is great for writers. It helps you understand yourself and your characters.
Mhm. Brenda.
Yes. So one thing that really hit home too, besides the fact that, you're just, so successful and that you've gone through all this, like you say, hardships and prevailed. The thing that really hit me too is that you're just so out there for other people, that you're encouraging to other writers. And that to me is something that I just thought, gosh, that's something I want to be one day. I want to grow up to be you.
Oh, thank you.
That's good.
Well, if you guys want to more inspiration, I blog at learnhowtowriteanovel.com. If you want to check that out. And sometimes I'm on a Facebook group called Write That Book with Trisha Goyer, or by Trisha Goyer, but she brings on a lot of agents and editors. And so that's, a few people are asking me about agents. That'd be a good place to interact with agents one-on-one. And there's lots of opportunities through there.
Excellent. Good suggestions.
Yeah.
What is it called again?
The blog is learnhowtowriteanovel.com. I can type it in here as well. And then the Facebook group is Write That Book.
Yeah, there's so many good groups on Facebook. If you find one that lifts you up, really can help you as a writer.
Cool. Any other questions?
I'm trying to look through other questions to see if there's.
It's like we've got one from Michelle. If you suffered any depression from your life's lows, how did you push yourself forward?
Yeah, I've had a couple of lows with divorce and with cancer. And I really have two different word pictures, and they come from the Bible. The first one, when I was going through my divorce, I felt like I was the woman with the issue of blood who was just clinging on to Jesus's robes. It was like I had nothing. I felt like I'd lost everything. It was just me like clinging on for dear life. When I was going through cancer, I felt more, I don't even feel like I had the energy to hang on to ropes. I was just the guy on the mat, just laying there as my friends lowered me through the roof to Jesus. And being a Christian writer and writing Christian fiction, I feel like what I want to offer through that is hope. And so that's where I found it in the darkest of times.
Do you ever find an obstacle from people who are not into religion for like speaking engagements or for having your books be received?
Oh, for reading my books?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's Christian fiction, Christians are my audience, but I also teach yoga, and I have a girl who comes to my yoga class who's an atheist, and she loves my books. And so that wasn't expected. I think you have to know your market, know who you're trying to get your books in front of, and then go from there. It will expand. Like I was just on the way here in the van from the airport, I was telling our airline crew, which I don't know any of their religious beliefs, but I was like, yeah, I have to go speak to a writing group. And they're like, you're a writer? And they wanted to know about my experience. And I think really for sharing my heart and my beliefs about God, it's about sharing my experience and my stories. And so if people want to hear my stories, that's just going to be a part of it. And I've been surprised with who has wanted to hear.
Well, that's a good attitude, really.
Yeah.
I like that. Because you can only offer what you have.
Right.
But also that writing the best books, they do give the reader hope. regardless. And you just mentioned that word. And also resonance. You know, if it resonates, your experiences of having, you know, a marriage that fell apart, and then also of having a extreme life-threatening health situation. I mean, my God, you know, those resonate for people. And for you to write about the, you know, from that place, and then to give readers hope, that's the magic formula, is to help lift us up. And you're doing that. So
Well, thanks.
thank you.
Yeah. So my movie, they did take the God part out of it. So my hope is, you know, if people enjoy that movie, maybe they'll read the book, or check out to see who I am, and then just see it that way. I don't know.
It's like Tony Hillerman once got this review before he became famous. He approached an editor, I mean, an agent, and the agent looked at his work and said, well, it would be okay if you took all that Indian stuff out of it. So in your case, it was like, well, take all the God stuff out and you'll be fine.
Yeah, I think that if you make it integral to who the character is and not preachy, I think people are open to that. Maybe curious.
Yes.
Who the character, you know, based on who the character is. It's not trying to sell your religious belief. It's just where the character is at in their life, what they're struggling with.
Yeah.
I'd like to say just one quick thing. The thing is about books getting labeled as, say, romance fiction or Westerns or science fiction. The label seems to say, well, it doesn't have to be good literature if it's got that label to it. And that's an area I really disagree. If you think of romance novels, hey, the beginning of America of fiction with Jane Austen were romance novels. And Westerns, Larry McMurtry's Lonesome Dove won the Pulitzer Prize. Science fiction, we look at 1984 and we look at Brave New World, and we call them classics. So I think that sometimes giving a book a label like that is unjust. And as for a Christian, I'm not a Christian, but the point is, I think that hope is at the crucial part of almost any novel we read. That's what we're looking for, is something that says, hey, this tells us something about the human existence and about what we and how we can deal with it. And I've often, even though I'm not a Christian, I often put in my books people who are having a crisis of faith of some kind, which I think is always a key, because everybody deals with that somewhere along the way. But I want to thank you for your presentation, Angela. It was really good, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I will say about genre novels, a lot of people want to know what they're getting into. Like if they want something that has a happy ending, they're probably going to read a romance, or but it's the books that break out. So when I say a breakout novel, it's a book, probably a book that's made into a movie, like a James Patterson or Harry Potter. Those broke out, those broke the mold. And a lot of times it's a genre novel written in a literary way. So it's not as formulaic as they can be. It goes a little bit deeper. So that's what they say about breakout novels, is it is genre, but it's written in a literary way. So the books you mentioned were probably a little more literary, and that's what struck a chord in people.
Okay.
Anything else?
I'll just say you guys can message me if you want to find me on social media or go to my website, or I'd be happy to continue any of these conversations. And it was nice meeting you, and I wish you all the best.
We wish you the best too, Angela. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yes,
thank you for having me. And I'm so glad I made it.
Thank you very much.
The Zoom
Thank you so
clap.
much.